case anything were to trigger him. He does have a lot of reactivity issues, and so you don't want to be walking a dog with reactivity issues, especially the spontaneous ones like he has, without a properly fitting collar. He's had no issues in any misunderstanding of how the collar is being used, which is really good. That's something I was worried about with him. It's not an issue. But we do want to have the collar high and tight on the neck. You can feel where that little muscle is, and you just want to put it right above it. That way, if he does see something and you miss his cue, because he's very easy to correct before he goes after whatever he's looking at. But if you do miss that cue, if you have this set up, it's a nice fail-safe to where he'll still correct himself. It won't be as effective or as good of a learning experience as if you had corrected him prior to. However, it is better than him successfully being able to lunge, pull, and do what he wants. Another thing that we want to note about the prong collar, this one is a quick release, so it's a little bit easier to put on and take off. You never, ever, ever, ever want to pull one of these over their face. That is because the prongs could go into the eyes or into the nose, scratch the face, and it's just generally uncomfortable. Any prong collar I see that has the function where you put it over their head, I would never, ever, ever use, just because if they flinch, just the smallest thing could happen and it could go in an eye, and that's not a risk that I'm willing to take. Heel. Now what I'm doing with him is, prior to him getting to a position where he would start pulling, I will correct. We don't really want him out of position. We'd rather correct him prior to him being out of position, because we want him always focused on what we're doing. Because he has those reactivity issues, we want him to always be paying attention. That means that when he is walked, you need to always walk him correctly. If you're not feeling like walking him correctly, being mindful of your surroundings and always paying attention to his physical cues, don't walk him. Because it's just going to go back and revert. The more successful attempts to lunge at anything or get too upset he has, the more ingrained that's going to be in his brain, and it's just better to not than to have that be reinforced. He does very well with every command. He's very good to sit when told, very good to stay when told. I've had no problems with any of that. The only time he's had any issues is when he sees squirrels or when he sees dogs. So we really had to work hard on that. Leave it. If you see what I did just there, is he was getting a little distracted. So I told him to leave it. When he didn't, I issued a light correction to get his attention back. I always want his attention on me and what I'm doing, just because of his tendency to pay attention to other things. The more focus I get from him, the less likely he is to notice things like squirrels and dogs, and the more less likely he is to have a bad reaction towards them. I want to make sure there's no constant tension on the leash, because we want the correction to be clear and precise every time. Right now we're coming upon a park that often has dogs and squirrels. So when we reach these locations to where we know that we've had issues in the past, so we know there's a potential for dogs or squirrels, it's helpful to have some food on hand. Go ahead, and all you really have to do is just let him sniff and see what you got there. And when we do issue a treat, remember we are going to want to feed to this side of us, not out in front. If we feed out in front, he's going to be more likely to do this, and that's not something we want to be rewarding. I do recommend having a high value food reward on hand, so something like a meat or a cheese for him. Because when he does successfully leave the dog or the squirrel that he was reacting towards, you want to be rewarding that fully. There are a lot of squirrels over there too. So I'm gonna watch the top of his head. I'm gonna watch for those wrinkles to pop up. That's when I know I'm losing him. I want to correct him or offer a treat or both. And it's far better to issue a small correction before he makes a move towards what he wants to run after than to try to reel him in and punish him for doing the wrong thing. You want to say, hey, I know your mind's not right in the right place, with a gentle correction, and then that's it. Versus a fight, or he's lunged to the end of the leash and self-corrected with the collar, which is going to be a lot harsher of a punishment on his neck than if you issue a small correction. He also does enjoy going after things like motorcycles. We had an issue with that the first couple of days. I'm not quite sure why, but just be mindful of that. Treat that the same way you would a dog across the road, because he does very much want to chase it. Now when we are working around squirrels, we want to have a high value food reward. There is no option. It has to be very high value, because squirrels are very high value. going to always make sure that this collar is in the correct position. Due to him having a short coat, and I do not want the collar to be any tighter, this is sized correctly. However, due to him having such a short coat, sometimes it may slip, and you need to make sure you keep it in the right spot. So when it slips during the walk, after he's been relaxed, make sure you readjust it. And you're going to want to do so until all these habits are entirely gone. So you don't even see the wrinkles anymore, whereas it is wonderful that he does not lunge at the squirrels and he's happy to sit by the squirrels. Just in case something were to trigger him to the point of getting up and moving, you want to make sure this collar's in the right spot until all those wrinkles are gone, no matter what you're around. Try to find a good spot for you to cross yourself. Also, you want to make sure on walks that you are not letting him eat grass or sniff unless he's released with the go-ahead command. That's because, again, we want to drive it into his head that he has to listen to us for the entirety of the walk. Leave it. So when things like that pop up, he's still somewhat focused on what we're telling him to do, rather than just going on his own free will, which would be chase the squirrel up the tree.
So right now what we're doing is we are out in the parking lot by the dog park. And we are going to be working on some drills where he has to look at me and the other dogs. Now, something we're going to do before every walk is we are going to remind him that he is in control of the prong collar, because again, we do not want him to feel trapped, because that can result in the reaction that you see with him towards other dogs on a leash. If he doesn't feel safe, he may react more harshly than he would if he did feel safe. So the way we do that is we just kind of pace back and forth and make some sharp turns. He feels the pressure, he relieves the pressure himself. And things like whining, that's a good way for you to know that he is experiencing some stronger emotions, and that's your window of opportunity to kind of get him out of the situation. A lot of what I'm seeing in him can be aggravated by, unfortunately, dogs walking by kennels and things like that. I do understand that you do have to kennel your dog sometimes. I have to kennel mine too. But one way we can reduce that severe reaction is to toss treats into the back of the kennel whenever we walk by, or whenever another dog is going to walk by. So at no point does the dog successfully lunge at the door. What I'm doing right now is I'm just walking and letting him get settled, letting him get used to this environment. So we've got a lot of dogs out here, and they keep walking by as well. So we want to make sure that he feels very safe and he's comfortable with what's happening. If you know a dog in your neighborhood is going to react aggressively towards him, just don't walk by that dog. We do not need to reaffirm into his brain that other dogs are mean and angry. So try to avoid those at all cost. What you should do is go the opposite direction, be that across the road or just turn around and go home even. You just want to make sure that you go in the opposite direction that he is pulling. So, for example, if he wants to go see a dog that's over there, I'm going to turn this way. And then, I have his attention. I can turn back this way again. When I see him get too focused on that dog, then I turn back around and I go this way again. Leave it. Here. After something like that happens, it's only about 4 or 5 seconds before he's fully focused on me again, which is way better than it was. It did kind of wreck his entire walk when that happened. Now he's seeming a lot more resilient, which is something that I want to see. It means he's having a lot more confidence in the walk itself. And again, he's perfectly fine with all the dogs around. All the dogs here right now are fairly friendly, and so we're not having any sit. And now I do want to be very sure that when I give him a command and I make him follow through instantly if there is another dog around, because we do not want his attention. So right now all he's doing is he was just looking at the other dog. So before he would bark at the other dog, I'm having him sit down. So I'm countering the thing that I know he wants to do. So if I make him sit, he can't run after the other dog. And anywhere we are where we do give him a little bit more freedom, like here, go ahead. So we're letting him sniff and hang out. We do want to be very, very observant. So we want to scan the surroundings, want to see where all the dogs are, what's happening, and we want to be ready to move him out of the way. Around the dog park and the soccer field. And anything working around balls, small animals, other dogs, it's very, very beneficial. Keep in mind it will be a lot more taxing than walking a dog with no reactivity issues, because you do have to be able to stay focused for the entirety of the walk. Leave it. So what we have going on right now are barking sounds in the distance. When he's not barking and lunging, see how he opened his mouth and started panting again. That's exactly what I want. We're getting some dogs running by, playing fetch. Leave it. So this is about the maximum that he's comfortable with. See, we're getting whining. He's starting to get a little more frantic. So we're going to move back. Sit. That's very good. Leave it. What a good boy. Now that was very good. So we had a dog having a negative reaction towards another dog. And we had him notice it. And then he gets his focus back on me. So he gets lots of treats. What a good boy. Yeah, that's perfect. That's really beautiful. It is not unreasonable for a dog to be a little more nervous around a dog that's being angry. However, he should trust us enough that he knows nothing bad's going to happen. It's hard to say, if something happened with another dog with him when he was young, or if it was a lack of socialization, with the other dogs in the litter not having the same problems. Something little may have just happened when he was little, and it may have made him upset. Being walked improperly on a prong collar, or being walked improperly on any collar in general, could have played a role. It's really difficult to say what caused it, though. Now you can see he's calming down a lot, even with the dog sounds in the background. Try to look at his posture right now. Remember that? Because that's what you're going to want to look for. If he has this posture, he is relaxed. And then it's okay to step up the difficulty of the training. Sit. Another way you can tell how distracted he is if you give him the sit command and he doesn't immediately respond. Because he is very, very responsive. So if he is not sitting the first time he's told, something's not right. He's seen something, he smells something. Something is distracting him. Leave it. Good boy. So I heard bark, bark, bark in the background. So immediately what I did was I told him to leave it, because I know that's something he has a problem with. So now that we have successfully gotten him to a point to where, like people, okay, so I'm not going to walk by these lovely strangers and punch them in the face. He is understanding that we don't come up to any random dog and needlessly punch them in the face. It is a new stage of training to teach him that even if another dog looks like it's going to punch him in the face, he still ignores it. He has to have enough faith in you to know that you're not going to let those dogs hurt him. And you have to hold up your end of the deal. That means you have to protect him from anything ever happening to him like that. So nothing going wrong at a kennel when passing another dog, nothing. No dog ever touches him. Unfortunately, if a dog does touch him, it's going to do a lot more damage. And he's going to be a lot less likely to be okay with dogs. This does seem a lot like a nervousness issue. Along with what you're seeing and his reaction with dogs comes things like eating grass. A lot of times dogs with higher issues with nervousness will eat grass fairly frantically. Leave it. You see, sometimes he'll go towards a dog very friendly as well. And that's also something we want to discourage because they're none of his business. Good boy. What a boy. Leave it. Sit. Good boy. What a good boy. Leave it. Good boy. Ah. Good boy. So even if he's not having a bad reaction, but he is focusing in on the dog, I am just interrupting because I don't want him to linger on that thought. Good boy. So we have 2 dogs very close to us, and he's still fairly relaxed. Yes! Good job! So anytime he naturally gives me that glance, I'm giving him a high value reward. Leave it. Yes! What a good boy! And it unfortunately is important that we go from having a commanding voice to a very, very silly, happy voice. That just, it thrills them. They learn faster. Over-exaggerating your intentions helps a lot when the dog can't understand what we're saying. They understand our tone, so over-exaggerate the tone. Sit. Good boy.